Woodturning 201, lesson number 2. In our first lesson, we did the very basic bowls. Simple shape, no foot, and we learned the basic bowl cuts. This time we're going to take it a little bit farther. First of all, I'm not going to hold it on a tenon like I did last time. Remember, we created a tenon. This time I've changed out the jaws on the lathe from something this size to the next size larger. This will allow me to expand into a recess, which I'm going to put on the back. Different way of holding it for phase 2. For phase 1, I'm going to use what's called a screw chuck. This goes into the base of the jaws of the 4-jaw chuck, and it expands into a hole that we've drilled into the wood blank. So I need to know how deep, so I've measured the depth of this beyond the surface. This will be a reference surface. Marked it on my 3/8 drill bit and drilled a hole that depth. So now we'll go to the lathe, screw the blank onto the screw chuck, shape the back. Instead of creating a tenon, we'll create a place for this to expand into. So the next measurement I'm going to need is how big around is this dimension. At this point it's close to that circle we talked about last time, so I'm going to need a hole a little bigger than this dimension right here. So I marked that on the calipers. So I'm ready to go to the lathe and get started. See you at the lathe. Screw my chuck. Screw on my blank, and it goes on pretty tight, which is precisely what I want. I'm using the chuck key as a little bit of leverage to pull this blank around. Now this is almost good enough, but you see that it's not sitting tight against those jaws, and that's not okay. This has to be completely against. There we go. Surface these jaws, so the screw chuck's pulling it in, but it's still registering on this flat surface. So there we go. Lathe is on, speed is down at the lowest. And we're going to do pretty much some of the same steps we did before. I'm going to have to true up the outside of this. Let's see how true it is running. Yeah, it's off like I expected. And I want to be slightly above center line. And I'm going to come around this corner, square off this edge. After that, I will face this off. And then we'll be going on to doing something a little bit new, which will be creating the rebate in the bottom into which these jaws will set. Bleed up, face shield in place. Here we go. Other hand. Make a slight camera adjustment here. Much better. Change my foot position. Start again. Now let's mark out the diameter of this rebate. So we can see it. So I'm going to go in with my skew chisel, straight in. And I can remove all this wood by scraping. I can establish the nice square corner I need here. And then take most of it out with my gouge. Since working it towards the center, and more speed will help. Okay, so we have established where it's going to be held. Let's be sure that it's large enough. And I'll be sure this corner is square. Really important. And this area right next to the corner needs to be very flat because that's where the jaws will set again. So now we'll come around and create our bowl shape that we want. Okay, what I did differently here. I started my cut, came around here, rotating my body clockwise around the curve. And about here, I continued the cut, but I rotated my body backwards, creating a curve that is a Ogee, or a second curve. So we still have more cleanup to do. We're not to the rim, but watch the direction the tool moves. So in order to get that curve, I'm constantly looking here to see the shape as it comes up. The curve here is fine. This is not quite right here. But also I need to establish what my foot is going to be. And it's going to be a slight lift right here, which is going to allow me to take more of this mass away. Now, watch, I'm going to cut that foot in. Just a little foot. But the curve starts right above here. Reversing. So we have an Ogee shape. Positive curve, negative curve. Now this rim is not the way I want to leave it. That's much too thin to have a final piece. I don't have much of a foot, but just enough to lift this design up off of this surface when we get in here. And as you can see, that this will then be shaped out for a bottom. It'll be just fine. So we have basically done the outside, other than cleaning up the curve a little bit. There's going to be a little shear scrape here and there. Right in here, for instance. Love these little tiny shavings. You'd have to change position in order to be able up here and do the inside of this curve, so I'm going to put the tool here. So now what remains would be to sand this outside, and I'm not going to worry about down in here yet because I'm not ready to finish that off. But I've established this foot. Shoulder here needs a little bit more cleanup. Now I can see it without my face shield. I'll put my shield down and do another shear cut right into here. So the outside is roughly done, a little sanding, And it's a good time to do it here because I have access. But we're going to move on simply because this is about the shaping, not about sanding. So next step, I'm going to take it off the lathe, reverse it, and then go on to step number, whatever it is, 3 probably. So let's remove the bowl from the chuck. It's off. Next thing we'll do is take the screw chuck out. We don't need it anymore. Now what we're going to do is take the bowl blank and stick it up here. Bring these jaws down inside. We'll get the garbage out of here. That's not good. And now what we've got is this sitting inside, firmly opening the jaws into the rebate. Now, since there's not a huge amount of wood here, over-tightening could split the blank, but I think we're okay. Now this face is going to have to be trued. And then we have a hollow curve, interesting curve to pull. So let's face off first. See my height here a little bit. Maybe just a smidge lower. Power on. Pick up my speed a little bit. Okay, bowl turning. Well, for this, the tool rest is a little low. Same cuts as last time to start. So the lathe is beginning to jerk my arm up a little bit as we get here because the leverage is getting longer. So the solution, turn the tool rest inside. Now I'm starting to pick up my curve right about here and following the shape of that as it comes around. I'm not worried about this little part where I roll it the other direction yet. So I'm beginning to try to match that curve, practicing. practicing. Almost to the bottom of my hole, that's good. Now the cut was a little big, I'm going to take half of that. Here, a little different shapes. I'm going to try to follow the outside, just this little area. Okay, so I was really trying to follow this edge, looking outside, coming around. Get this edge fine, get this done before you go on. Now you can see the very top edge needs to be cleaned up, and I better do that before I take more mass out of here. Little shear scrape across here. And I'll break this edge. Save a little bit. Okay. Now I want to check as I go down. I want to be sure this first inch is fine, and I'm close. So let's take a look at the calipers and see what it says. My tool rest where I want it. Pick up my calipers. I don't know if you've seen these. I may not have shown them to you very well last time, but whatever this distance here is replicated between here and here. So I can come in here like this, watch what's happening to the handle, and see if we're uniform around here. And because of the shape, they can be worked the other way. This is a little out of your picture, but the handle's out here, trust me. works. Anyway, size looks pretty good to me at in that area right there. So it's okay to go down a little bit farther. And I'm just going to go down about halfway. Just that far. Feels pretty good. Little shear scrape to clean it up. I think we can check it. We should check. Otherwise it's trust me, right? So there we are, a little over 3/16. And all the way down to here, it's about the same. Now, I don't want to take this out until this edge is completely done, because I'll start getting floppy. This becomes less and less stable and more difficult to go back to. It is getting just a slight bit thicker at the bottom, so I'm going to take it down a little farther in order to have some room to clear up the bottom of this cut. Now, be cautious about one thing. As I come down around here, there's this large projection here. I'm cutting on the bevel of the tool, actually on this little spot right there that's clean. But all of a sudden I could come down here and run into this on the other side of the tool, and it would be a big grab. And so I'll just be cautious about that. Now, it's a little thicker down here, but I can take that out with a shear scrape. It's not that far off. And then I'll check. Trust your fingers. It needs a little bit more right down at the bottom. Okay, I like that. Let's see if the calipers likes it also. So here we go. You're right down there, it's getting a little thicker right there. There's a little thicker. This comes around that corner. So I'm going to take some of this mass off with this tool by coming across here. Since this is fairly open, I can kind of continue my cut in a way that the deeper walled bowl of the last lesson I could not do. So I'm going to come across here and just take some of this off and then go to my scraper. Now I need to know how deep this bowl is. So let's get that depth into here. So we're about there. And that says that, let's see, here's our thickness of our blank, right at 2 inches. And our depth now is right at 1.5. And I've got about 1/8 of an inch in the bottom. So it's good to take a measurement to know where you are. Well, let's get to the round nose scraper that we used last time. I'm trying to find it. Oh, right here in front. I couldn't see it because it's so close. Remember, we want to have the tool rest a little high. We want the scraper to be going downhill. So I've got the curve here. It's coming around here. I'm going to do that with the scraper. Getting great shavings, but very light touch, practically fingertip. So we have the interior shaped, and we have the exterior shaped. A little sanding off camera. And then I'm going to show you a couple of other ways of holding this so we can complete the backside. Back in a few minutes after the sawdust settles. I want to show you a couple of options. Come out here to this camera where it'll fit. This is called Longworth chuck. It's two plates with grooves cut in that are exactly the same, but one reversed against the other. So as I turn the first plate against the second, see it on this camera here too, these screws move in and out. Maybe even here better. Yeah. On the back side is a shape that will fit inside your chuck jaws. So I would set this up here into the chuck, tighten the chuck jaws. This is shaped to work on either a dovetail jaw or a straight jaw. I put my bowl into the center and proceed to turn these things down until I get it to the size, and then tighten each of these screws to hold the bowl firmly in place. These come in different sizes. I know this one's huge. For this project, it's overkill. But there are other sizes. And I just happen to have a large one. And as you can see, it goes down to the smaller diameters equally well. The problem is that with big jaws like this, you must run at a fairly low speed. That's a pretty big piece of material to be flying around. So keep your speed low. Now there's another thing, that's just another set of jaws. Let's take this out and set it aside. And I'm going to show you, here's our same chuck we've been using, but now with a different set of jaws. A set of jumbo jaws, or some brands call them coal jaws. It's just a brand name difference. You have to break that chuck loose to get it off. We'll take this off, put it away. And we'll mount this chuck. Now these also come in different sizes, and basically it's just another chuck jaw. I took the jaws off, mounted this set, and these rubbers can be moved in and out. And so I put them in the right place for this size bowl and simply tighten down. Not real tight. Now this rubber can damage if we squeeze too tight. But basically we've got that bowl held very solidly. And all I now need to do is to bring my tool rest back. And I can get in here and clean up this edge, sand this bottom area, and complete the bowl. So let me show you cleaning up the edge, and I'm not going to bother with showing you the sanding. You've seen that before. So speed is as low as possible setting. There's writing on these jaws that says do not go over 1,000 RPM. I doubt if I'd ever go that fast. But I'm just going to make sure this edge here is square. So this is going to be what the bowl will sit on. Now I don't need that wide of a piece there, and I can take my gouge and take a little bit of this mass out of here. Not much, just a little bit. I'm going to blend that in so it's not a particularly rounded edge anymore. Doesn't look like something I was using to hold it onto the lathe, does it? Right down to the bottom. And now I can also flatten this off here a little bit. Maybe just a shear scrape across here, a couple strokes. And a little bit of sanding. And that bowl is also completed. You've seen me sand, so I'll spare you that. But these jumbo jaws or coal jaws in different sizes are a great way to finish off a bowl and to do that edge just the way you'd like it to be. So let's go back over to the bench, summarize where we are. Well, here we are, completed another project. Basically another simple bowl, but a little bit more elegant than the last one we did. Having the recurve shape on here adds a lot of interest to the piece. Having completed this with a foot like this makes it a little bit more interesting, and having a different way of holding provides more access to the bottom for sanding and completion. So there's options in a lot of different shapes and a lot of different forms and places to go. So I've showed you a lot about turning your first and second bowls. Take a piece of dry wood. Poplar is really nice. It's a hardwood but soft enough that it gives easily to the tool, and less expensive wood to start with. And turn a number of bowls. Great little gifts, nice little peanut holder or a small popcorn dish. A lot of purposes in them in all different sizes. So get a little practice in, and the next round of videos we're going to be doing, we'll be taking bowl turning in a different direction. Instead of working with dry wood that we bought from a store, we're going to be working with wood that has been reclaimed from the urban forest. In other words, green wood turning. Where I got a lot of dust and chips like that here with the dry wood, I'm going to get entirely different kind of shavings working with the green wood, and it's a much different feel in the cut. It also requires an additional step, and we'll talk about harvesting, preparing, storing, and turning our first green bowl in Woodturning 301, which is the next series that'll follow right after this. Also in 301, we're going to talk about natural edge bowls, which is another concept. We'll approach that also. So, happy turning, stay safe, we'll see you soon.